I'll jump into the render tree just by pressing 7 and having a look at what I have hooked up here. I'll delete the old image node that came across as I'm not actually using the textures anymore. So my shader's defining the color as white. Of course, that's not going to really happen because the vertex map is what's being displayed in this scene. And I actually want to use the vertex color information instead. So to do that, we need to extract the vertex data from our vertex map. And for that, I'm going to use a map lookup node. So if I go down and I find map lookups, I can do a vertex RGBA lookup or a color map lookup. So if I pull the map lookup color in and use it to describe the diffuse color, I can pull in the vertex color information, the color at vertices, and actually shade it in Mental Ray that way. I'll do the same thing. I'll actually just copy paste and repeat this process for the other objects. So I'll copy paste that in, drive the diffuse. Again, make sure we're using the vertex color there. We can get rid of this branch by middle clicking and deleting, bringing in our vertex color map lookup. Drive the diffuse, and again, it should already be defaulting to the color at vertex map on each of these grass clumps now. One more refresh, paste in, output color to diffuse input, and verify that you're actually using the vertex colors. Okay, if I draw a render region now, we should have the colors under control. There we go. Of course, the aliasing is very low, but once I crank that up a little bit, we've got a ton of high frequency detail that will really make our scene that much more appealing. Again, running Camtasia full screen at 16 by 12 and trying to render this stuff at the same time really does kind of cause you to take a bit of a hit in performance, but you can see within the render region how that's cleaning up really nicely. And of course, we can still shade and light these using shadows and any rendering techniques as well. So maybe what I'll also do here is I'm just going to go back into the instances, and I'm just going to reorient their centers so that the direction of the grass is a little more uniform. So I'll get rid of that, and this will be my last step here, so I'll just pull all 4 of those objects once again into an object view, view, general, object view. Pin that down so it can't get away on me. And make sure that, in this case, let's see, if I have a look at the axis, let's make sure that the grain, the direction that the grass blades are moving, we'll just pick a random direction, let's say the positive x-axis. So I'll just rotate my center pivot to do that there. And I don't necessarily want them all pointing in exactly the positive x-axis. I'm just going to vary it a little bit. You know, they don't have to be all aiming directly straight ahead. This one looks pretty good. Maybe I'll take it a little bit more. And this one here definitely needs rotating as well. Let's say something like that. Okay, let's see what that does. I will freeze the modeling history of my objects, and we'll just go back in here. And let's see what we have. So we had a lot better orientation now, which is kind of nice. The particles tend to be moving in the same direction. And I think yeah, that'll do it. Let me just move out a little bit more. Let's see what this looks like when I unhide the actual ground that I hit a while back, the grassy area and pathway. I'm just going to go in and hide the emitter object and unhide the grassy area and pathway, like so. So it's a little saturated at the moment, but of course using ice I'll be able to blend all of this in if I need to. I can bring in some gradient colors. I can do a whole bunch of things now to make this work. I can also work the size of the grass as well. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of sizing. I'll do some randomization on the size, so I'll bring in a randomized value by range. And I'll drop that into the size attribute. Everything will disappear because it defaults to 0. And if I turn off the animated attribute, I'll go in and make sure these guys are a little bit bigger. So we'll go from a min size of, say, 4 to a max of 8, and now we get some slightly varied looking grass clumps, some smaller ones, some bigger ones, and it just makes it look that much better. Alright, so I'll call that successful, and maybe what I'll do at this point is unhide the pine trees so we can see how everything looks together. I'll go back in and unhide the trees point cloud, and when we combine the trees and the, actually it's in a group so I won't be able to actually do that, temp hidden, I'll bring that back. Just move the trees off to the side here. We're starting to get, again, a lot more detail in the sets than we could ever have before. I actually got to get out of these bushes here. I'm kind of tangled in the brambles. Get out of there. There we go. So starting to look a lot more detailed. I think this is going to look nice when it's actually rendered with shadows and with final gathering. And we'll see where we go from here. So that's the end of the tree and grass blades instancing section. I'll see if I can actually improve on these a little bit when we get to rendering them. So just a little bit more on instancing.